The UK has suspended trade negotiations with Israel and summoned the Israeli ambassador, ramping up threats made with France and Canada against Israel's actions in occupied Palestine. A joint statement from the three countries' leaders said, "We strongly oppose the expansion of Israel's military operations in Gaza and called the level of human suffering in Gaza intolerable." It also opposed expanding Israeli settlements in the West Bank. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has launched a ground offensive across the Gaza Strip after an 11-week aid blockade, accused the trio of giving a huge prize to Hamas, despite them also calling on the group to immediately release Israeli hostages. The statement by Keir Starmer, Emmanuel Macron and Mark Carney refrained from condemning Israel's offensive up until now, but warned that the denial of aid, as well as calls from some Israeli officials for mass Palestinian emigration, are in breach of international humanitarian law. While the statement threatens concrete actions, including targeted sanctions, should Netanyahu continue, critics in the UK point to ongoing military and technological support that could undermine diplomatic pressure. But UK Foreign Secretary David Lammy doubled down this afternoon and announced in Parliament new tariffs against West Bank settlers.
I'm announcing that we have suspended negotiations with this Israeli government on a new free trade agreement. We will be reviewing cooperation with them under the 2030 bilateral roadmap. The Netanyahu's government's actions have made this necessary. Madam Deputy Speaker, today, my honourable friend, the Minister for the Middle East, is summoning the Israeli ambassador to the Foreign Office to convey this message.
A drop in the ocean. This is how the United Nations has described 9 trucks of aid Israel have allowed into Gaza after mounting international pressure. It is the first trickle of humanitarian aid that's been allowed into the besieged strip since early March, when Israel unilaterally broke a ceasefire with Hamas and cut off access to food, water, and medicine to more than 2 million Palestinians. This was followed by an international outcry, with a number of UN experts accusing Israel of using starvation as a weapon of war, a charge it has also defended at the International Court of Justice. The UN's humanitarian chief, Tom Fletcher, says 14,000 babies in Gaza could die in the next 48 hours if aid doesn't reach them. Meanwhile, Israel's government this week launched an expanded military campaign aimed at displacing the majority of Gaza's population into small encampments, killing more than 150 Palestinians since Monday morning. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says despite backlash from his government over the decision to let the 9 aid trucks in, he did so for practical and diplomatic reasons.
מתחילת המלחמה אמרנו שכדי להשלים את הניצחון, להכריע את החמאס ולשחרר את כל חטופינו, שתי משימות שמשולבות זו בזו, יש תנאי אחד הכרחי. אסור לנו להגיע למצב של רעב, גם מבחינה עניינית, גם מבחינה מדינית. פשוט לא יתמכו בנו, לא נוכל להשלים את משימת הניצחון. יש לנו מלחימה עצימה ועצומה, ויש התקרבות. אנחנו הולכים להשתלט על כל שטחי הרצועה. זה מה שאנחנו הולכים לעשות. ודבר נוסף, אני פשוט מצדיע למילואימניקים, אני מצדיע ללוחמים שלנו בסדיר, הם עושים שם עבודה נהדרת, כולל הבוקר, אני לא יכול להיכנס לכל הפרטים, אנחנו לא מוותרים. אבל כדי לעשות את זה, צריך לעשות את זה באופן כזה שלא יעצרו אותנו.
A diplomatic row is unfolding between the UK and Iran amid accusations of espionage on the one hand and illegal detention on the other. Britain summoned Iran's ambassador on Monday after charges were filed against 3 Iranian nationals suspected of spying. It came a day after Iran summoned a British diplomat over what state media called the illegal and unjustified detention of an Iranian national in the UK. The 3 men pictured here faced charges in a London court on Saturday, accused of spying for Iran, including plotting violence against a UK-based journalist. At the time of their arrest, police also took 4 other Iranian nationals into custody on suspicion of preparing a terrorist attack. They were arrested under a National Security Act that aims to prevent malign foreign influence. The 4 have been released from custody, although counter-terror police said the investigation continues.
How Microsoft is killing Palestinians. How about you show how Israeli war crimes are powered by Azure? As a Microsoft worker, I refuse to be complicit in this genocide. Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
This was a video of Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella being confronted by one of his own engineers at his company's annual developer conference over its ties to Israeli surveillance programs in Gaza. Firmware engineer Joe Lopez disrupted the keynote speech before he was dragged away by security. The protest was part of a growing movement of former Microsoft employees called No Apartheid for Azure. They accuse the tech giant of using its advanced cloud platforms to help Israel's army collect and transcribe conversations from the ground in Gaza, helping them find targets for their airstrikes. Speaking to Middle East Eye, Lopez said a growing number of staff have grown disgruntled from the lack of transparency from Microsoft's leadership.
So many Microsoft workers are now stepping forward and saying that they don't support this and that they want a response from leadership to either say that this is not occurring or acknowledge that it's occurring and say that the steps that they're taking. And so far, until this past week, Microsoft leadership has been completely silent. They have not said basically anything about this. And it's just so confusing because you would think if we're truly not complicit, if this company is truly not guilty, then leadership would want to respond and, clear the slate, make it known that, they're not guilty. And so that basically, to me, is an admission of guilt that they've been so silent so far.